Hey, this is Morning Show. I'm Jeff Cook with Kristen Messagey, Jackie Contessa, and the TJ Wilson.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Kristen has a new haircut. And
You
so
can
do I.
compliment it. I won't be offended.
We talked about compliments a while back. You don't like compliments.
Yeah,
that
I
are,
wanted to fix
about-
all that. I was like, oh, that was too on the spot is what that was. I like all kinds. My hair looks good though, right?
Your haircut
It
makes
looks
you
great.
look
Thank you.
intelligent and worthy as a six coach.
Human being.
Yes.
Well done.
Guys, my coffee sucks today.
Boo.
Oh, we ran out of milk
no.
again. So I used almond milk. And I don't really put sugar in my coffee, right? I think cream or milk or whatever is really just a utility to make it not bitter. So the almond milk is it's an acquired taste and it's fine, but I also babysit my coffee and I keep it on the heater, the hot plate thingy.
Oh.
So the almond milk does not agree with the thingy, and I don't agree with the way that the almond milk does not agree with the thingy.
Yeah. Yeah. All of that sounds about right.
That's rough.
I bought the heavy cream
Yeah.
for this podcast.
No.
Everyone else in my house drank my heavy cream.
Injustice.
I am left with mere half and half today.
I feel like there's an inappropriate joke there, but I can't quite make it, so I'm going to let it go.
See, all of this is a good indicator that y'all should just start drinking it black.
Which I have had done in many, many seasons of life, but then I get too... It hits my bloodstream too fast.
Where else am I going to get the fat?
Or milk.
Where else are you going to get the fat?
Just eat more fatty foods.
Yeah.
I have
Butter,
lots of recommendations
avocado.
for you if you need.
olive
But
oil.
I like getting it out of the cream. You get protein and the fats. It's better than peanut butter.
Take it up with your
All
family.
right, so we're talking about recovery. Last time we talked about burnout. Apparently, after you burn out, you have to recover. And so I am curious how this happens. I'm asking for a friend.
I think we're all asking for a friend, aren't we?
Actually, how I thought about this, I was like, we're going to show up and we're going to be looking to each other for wisdom. And everybody's going to be like, dude.
Well, lucky for you all, I feel full of wisdom today, so I will.
Perfect. Kristen can carry us through.
Must be the haircut.
Let's start. What? Go ahead, Jeff.
You got a quote to start us off? I had a quote to start us off.
I'm gonna enjoy my heavy cream while you read your quote.
Well, I pitched recovery because I love this quote. This is from the Sacred Enneagram. Since then, he talks about a burnout season. Since then, I've done my best to protect rhythms that are healthy and sustainable. Today, I know that Sabbath is for rest. Retreats are for reflection. Vacations are for recreation. And sabbatical is for renewal. But in the days I was going 100 miles an hour, there was never a true Sabbath. Just getting to a retreat or a vacation felt like an exhausted marathon runner using the weight of their body to tear a thin finish line ribbon. And in 20 years, I took just one true sabbatical, which was actually an abbreviated version of what I should have taken. And here's the kicker. When we don't honor our rhythms and neglect caring for ourselves, then the luxury of sabbatical ends up being wasted on recovery. I like recovery. I think we need recovery. But I think this points to something about the nature of recovery that oftentimes it's not part of the healthy rhythm. It's actually something that we end up falling into because of the burnout rhythms that we had before. And I at least really identify with that paragraph. So starting there, any thoughts there?
What type is that person?
They're an 8.
I think one of the things about rest specifically, and I think we maybe talked about this last week, but that it kind of needs to be type specific. Not all rest is the same. Sometimes a 9 resting might just be entrenching in the patterns. A 6 resting, their brain just might go crazy. And I think this was said in the quote, there's something about knowing yourself well enough to know your personal needs and rhythms and, what do you actually need?
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I think it also, we can't ignore the reality that rest does not necessarily mean physical downtime.
Totally.
Like my 6 partner finds a significant amount of rest from doing yard work.
Oh, actually gets rest from the doing of the, okay.
Yeah.
I thought she was like me,
it,
who's like never done yard work in her life. I also have enjoyed rest
Yeah,
from yard work.
Yeah. She loves to be outside. She loves like doing stuff with her hands in that way. Like it feels good and centering and all of that stuff for her to do yard work. She loves it.
You know, I think there are some parts of recovery. We talked about it last week where we talked about how, you know, like you're not that kind of tired, right? It's really important to identify what kind of burnout. We talked about being a parent. We talked about these different things. But there are things that we share as human, and then there are things that separate us as type, where I think recovery from burnout, regardless of the area, is concerned. Like, I do think the human areas lie in instincts, you know, prioritizing the things that really matter to our instincts, getting ourselves right, getting ourselves out of repression in lots of areas. I think that's it in that repressed instinct. I think that's human. But then I think when it comes to type and being type specific, I think the cross section of repressed, center, and stance is such a key for where burnout could happen or is happening in a type. It's integrating all of that that I think makes recovery. And when we talk about, you know, working on repressed center, I don't think I'm not saying that the cure to burnout is making that like the lead of our lives, but I do think that getting it out of the repressed state is the thing that regardless of the burnout area, is the thing that starts. Because I think wholeness, recovery, whatever word you want to use for being out of that state, and staying out of that state requires balance. And so I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on like how do we map out, you know, maybe what goes wrong or what recovery looks like when, let's say, a human blanket doesn't cover it, but like it's maybe type specific.
In the 12 steps in actual recovery communities, because the step one is admitting powerlessness. And I think that has to be kind of the first step. If we're drawing a map, I have to stop banging that drum, playing that note. I have to admit this is not working for me.
That's where my mind wanted to go, is there, in terms of like repressed center being repressed, that it seems to me is the space of excess. And that's what I had on my list, is real recovery requires real interruption of excess. And interruption is a big idea. I think this is kind of the target, isn't it, for a therapist, is they're trying to see your patterns and then do damage to them so that you can rebuild something else. And interruption is what hit me there. If you get to the spot where excess does damage, then you actually are in a spot where you can say those healthy words of I'm powerless here. It's really hard to get there unless you really break. So well done. Friend
Hence me going
who's
straight
listening
to
this,
recovery.
Friend who needs to help with recovery, you are exactly where you need to be right now, in that spot where you can say, I am powerless.
I mean, well, let's talk about it. So powerless over what? That's going to be where type really shows, right? I'm powerless over actually predicting the future and protecting myself and anyone I know from it. Okay, no big deal. But it's really crucial. It's really crucial to hit that spot. So maybe we could quickly, like, what is the I'm powerless over?
Yeah, we could go through that.
We could do
real
that quick.
Quickly. Yeah. I'll just consult my list.
Good.
Was that actually a preface to what you were going to say?
Not me. No. No, I was making a joke.
I think we could do that in like 5 minutes.
I think you could do this very spiritually, and you could do it very scientifically. And I'm going to go with science real quick. The Dr. Siegel book on Enneagram that got released wants to talk about how when you're in excess, what ends up happening is your nervous system adjusts to the excess and becomes even more excessive. Like you're actually hammering out trenches in your brain that create neural pathways that are the obvious way to go, but sometimes those neural pathways don't lead to health. So where are you powerless over? You're powerless over yourself and your nervous system, which is a crazy thing to think. Like your brain is actually acting against you. And so the pivot in the 12 steps is to seek some sort of leverage from outside of yourself. Yeah.
Can you say that another way?
You need to say, I'm powerless and I need some higher source to
that's
to
step
get me
2.
out of this mess.
Yeah. That's second step right there. First, you're powerless. Then you're like, I actually need help that I haven't thought of already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
let me
Something
try
new.
something new
It's a
needs to happen.
very immediate opening to uncertainty and my own like, ugh. There's a real right sizingness too in this idea for me of recovery, right? Like if I'm burnt out, I've been trying to, I don't know, manage things in a way that is making me kind of more important than I am in the scheme of things, I feel.
I mean, just to name it, the low side, it's the low side of your motive that's commonly the problem. You need to quit performing. You need to quit intensifying and being dramatic. You need to quit withdrawing. You need to quit seeking reassurance. You need to quit escaping. You need to quit pushing. You need to quit numbing. You need to stop correcting. Hey, helping other people isn't working. That's quickly going around the circle, but the naming your excess matters here. So balance is where Siegel goes as well. How do you get to balance once you name that you're powerless? How do you seek balance?
I have meaning here. Like one of the reasons.
Yeah, do meaning.
Yeah. One of the reasons I think we are so collectively burnt is we're all on some hamster wheel that was given to us. I mean, TJ and I were talking about this last week. Like a lot of the reason for burnout is we have a really sick culture and a really sick society. So part of that frame is that what are we doing anything for, really, that is important and meaningful to us, that actually nourishes us in a way that I can work really hard if I know why I'm doing it. In fact, I want to work really hard for reasons that are deep and true for me. I can work really hard for lots of bullshit reasons. Mm-hmm. But stopping to be like, why am I doing this? I was even going to bring in some Viktor Frankl quotes here because I think he's, it's hard to top him for
the master of meaning.
Quotes about meaning. Yeah.
I think that's right.
There's so much work that goes into that piece. Why would I do these things? Maybe why would I keep doing the thing that burnt me out in the first place, right? If I can get a different internal relationship to that thing, maybe I can keep doing it. Maybe I need to have enough meaning that I can stop doing something that I need to stop doing and not collapse in on myself in kind of a shamey way. Like there's just a lot of paths to get there, especially if we've never really done it before.
I have a question. Building on that, TJ, we're 1, 2s, and 6. The thinking repressed triad over here may actually need to do some business on naming what's meaningful. Do other types have that problem?
Oh, good question.
Yes, but I don't know that other types would necessarily categorize it in the same way. Because I think 4s, 5s, and 9s really struggle with meaning and purpose, and like that's part of getting out of our body is like figuring out which things are important and putting our energy toward the things that are important and not toward the things that aren't important, and finding purpose as this is a thing to motivate us to actually get into the things that we're doing. I don't think that is the lack of meaning. Like there's another piece of it with 4s, 5s, and 9s. It's because it's not just like we have to find meaning and then we'll be able to do all of the things. It's there's another part of the hurdle.
Is there something in why would I do the work I know I need to do? Like, is there a piece there? Like if I'm a 4, I don't know how to talk about 4s. If I'm a 9, mm-hmm. Why would I do work to get more comfortable with conflict in my life? Why would I do that?
I don't know that I need to answer that question. I know why. It's because it's the healthier move. Like it's.
But so that's the meaning for you. It's because it's healthy.
This is the path toward being a better human. Knowing that is not enough.
This is my question. Yes.
To give me the motivation to actually do it.
Right. I think that's true for most people. I don't think personal development as a goal is that compelling to most people, which is why we have to get real creative in ourselves. And because people say, well, I want to grow, I want to be a better person. It's like, but that's not big enough to confront the pain of that first part, right? Of that, like, I'm powerless over myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Part of the 12 step has one more intermediate step in there, and it's confession. It's making a searching moral inventory. There is something about being really aggressive in diagnosis of this isn't working. That will give whatever your answer is for what meaning is going to replace that. It's going to give it a little bit more power if you say, look, I've gone down this path 28 times and my life has proven itself to be unmanageable. And that's why I am in a space of recovery. If I was living a healthy life.
I didn't think about this before, but I didn't think about this, but it's kind of obvious now. If we look at our type stuff as an addiction, I don't know if we hate that language or like it, but we're developing something here that I do really like. Like, what am I addicted to more than the growth that I need to do?
Yeah.
What's that fake thing that I'm, can't get enough of?
I'm actually overstepping here because I think we talked about in burnout that sometimes it is your moral duty to go 120% for a season. You're a new parent. It's just that season where you have to do it for the sake of your cancer-ridden mom. And that's just how things work sometimes. And you have to hit a place of recovery. So maybe that's maybe there's two, is recovery self-inflicted because of bad choices, or are you in recovery because you just need to name you did the right thing? That's one-ish. You were going 120 miles an hour for the sake of something worthy, but now you have exhausted. The tires fell off of the car.
But even that, how do we approach that? It's like the circumstances don't define how we approach the thing. It's the how we approach the thing that I think that's the only part that's in our control. So that's, I think, what we're talking about in the Enneagram. It's the parts that are in our control, which aren't much. Well, I'm saying that as a 6. Probably aggressive types wouldn't agree with me on that, which might be their addiction, right? They're like, what are you talking about?
No.
So
of all things, Dr. Siegel's book really wants to pitch control as kind of a primary. You can be controlled by the bad habits, aka neural pathways that you've fashioned. The more that you can escape that, the more volition you have, the more control you have, the more you can actually make choices if you can rise above control, that. Yeah. If you, he makes it neurological in terms of balance your brain and nervous system. And then you have 3 different, neural pathways that you can choose, which is kind of interesting on that front. It's like on the control front.
I'm just going to bring in one of the quotes that I really liked. C.S. Lewis said, "You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending."
Oh, that's a good one.
So this has me thinking about a lot of recovery for a lot of people has so much to do with mourning the loss of what we thought would be.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who go about recovery trying to I struggle with the word recovery because are we trying to get back? Yeah. Because we can't. We just can't get back.
There we go.
Period. We can't get back politically. We can't get back social. Like, we can't undo what has already been done. We can't get back to a way that things were. I loved the last 2 years of high school. I'm never going back there. And thinking about how great that was is really just going to get me stuck. And if I'm in recovery, then like trying to get to a place where I get back or where I'm aiming for getting back is a wasted effort. And thinking about like addiction recovery in particular, like one of the things that is massively important for addiction recovery is recognizing that you are in recovery for always. Like you are and will always be an addict. And this is something that you overcome daily, moment to moment. It's not something that you're ever on the other side. So like trying to figure out, like this is part of what I've been pondering. Part of why I've been so quiet is like, what does our orientation to time, how does that inform where we're looking in recovery? Like, are we trying to get back? Are we aiming for a future where we're completely healed from our addiction? That's not a real future.
An insert type there, right? Am I looking to a future where I'm just not a 6 anymore?
Mm-hmm. No,
because
that's
it's
not
so
a real thing.
Painful. That's not a real thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
so
in recovery, are you looking to the future? Like in spaces of recovery, like when I hit those burnout spaces, like I'm not looking to a future. I'm trying to get through this second. Like I have no idea what I'm doing right now.
So good.
I suppose to build on time orientation, just to pick 9s for a second in terms of, I think you're right in terms of saying, one, it's not just that the future is difficult for you to get into, but you're also resistant to the present.
Yeah.
Therefore, like living in the past is a true temptation for 9s as well as 4s and 5s. And that's the withdrawal. That's part of the stance is defined here. It seems to me that this is an opportunity for the 9 to remind them. I want to push back into maybe beyond Heart's message and Holy Idea and just talk about your identity. Like the win for the 9 is going to be very different from the win for the 1, the 6, and the 2. Knowing that you're a healing presence in the world, knowing that you have power in that space, knowing that you matter to people who are experiencing conflict, you need to get that in your bones, and you need to anticipate the fact that your future has that as part of your story. And that you're excited for those opportunities to emerge because nobody else on the planet has more skill to speak into that space than you do. That is a story worth embracing. Now, my story is going to be very different. I'm going to categorize goals in a very different kind of way that are going to be executable and check markable and all the rest. But I think identity ends up being real helpful here for what, I don't care what you can't do, Enneagram 2. I don't care what you can't do, Enneagram 6. You need to name what you can do, what you're made for, what you function higher at than anyone else. And then posture yourselves in a way that is maximizing that.
But also,
no more coffee for me.
It's so good. I feel like we're getting Pastor Jeff, which I never got to interact with Pastor Jeff. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But what you're saying, Jeff, like you're saying do this and then do this. And what that means though is, oh, by the way, confront the thing that you're most desperately trying to avoid on your way. And that's where I feel like, that like rousing encouragement is like misses this like, and by the way, on your way there, you're going to have to feel worse than you've ever felt. But it's cool because it's going to be great. And it's true. And partially. It's true. But there's a confrontation there with self. That's serious.
The first and greatest victory is the one over yourself. I think that's Plato or Buddha or somebody, but
well, it's the whole game.
One of those.
It's the whole game.
Okay, so what if... Go ahead, Jackie. Do you want to add to that? I was going to...
No, I was just gonna say it's interesting to have prepared for one type of recovery, and there's but like I'm thinking of how the phrase like big T little T trauma, right? I'm thinking of big R and little R recovery in this conversation. So no, continue, please continue. This is good morning.
That needs to be named, and it's not mutually exclusive. And by the way, I think that's if you're in the place where you're doing daily recovery, you're probably in a much healthier spot.
Yeah, I want to have that conversation.
The big idea that I wanted to come to the table with was that recovery is about reconnection and naming the places that you need to reconnect in this moment. I was watching this documentary on golf yesterday, and one of the gentlemen who is just top in the world at what he does, sports ball. Why are you?
I'm like a documentary
about
golf. My brain exploded with boredom.
At a moment.
Yeah, we did.
They heard a boring about boring.
It helps me sleep, y'all. But before I go to sleep,
that makes sense.
I learned a lesson. The gentleman who's at top of the world at what he does said to something to the effect of, on the course, there are moments where I simply focus on my posture while walking, because when I stand confident, it affects everything else about me. And there's in that bit of intentionality. A lot of athletes have to do this, where they have like a mantra in their mind, or something like prior to a free throw for a basketball player, prior to a drive for a golf player, whatever it is. It's I'm coming up to the moment where I need to execute. And what is often most helpful is I have in practice gone through my mantra, gone through my small rhythm that simply sets me up such that everything else can flow. That ends up being a real helpful meditation for me, and it seems like a daily practice of that can be very helpful.
So when you're talking about reconnection, you're talking about something that gives you grounding and stability.
Yeah, and opens up everything else. I think here's the neuroplasticity stuff. Like I need to get in my head. And if I'm waking up, my worst self is I get up and I'm immediately moving and chasing and going after, just trying to build the thing without really thinking about my day at all. That's a terrible rhythm for me, and I can quickly get fried because I get into catch-up mode, and sometimes the things that I'm spending my best energy on simply aren't valuable at all. Me getting into my head matters. So reconnecting with my mind on the repressed center stuff really matters, and I imagine that would be the case for the 2 and the 6, and I imagine what does it look like for the body to get into? I know that one of TJ's rhythms is the deliberate act of making the coffee in a certain way. That is connecting with his physicality. That's a healthy space to be. I can do this. I make things. These are good. And, finding that thing, I think, matters. So reconnecting to all the centers is probably a better way to go, but certainly your repressed center.
Like rebalance?
Rebalance.
Like rebalance. Okay.
Yeah, it's all about balance. Well, and I've been thinking about this a lot too. It's like recovery for someone like me. Like if I get up in the morning and think about my day, I could easily just stay in bed thinking about my day for hours. That'd be great. That sounds awesome. I would prefer to do that every single day. That'd be awesome. But one of the most healthy things I can do is get into my body right away. Start doing stuff. And yeah, thinking about balance, and like it really is about the regular practice of building habits that are better for me than my old habits were. And I can't get to there until I have those habits in place to where they're automatic.
Do you have a couple of those specific?
Yeah, like I don't know that. Yeah, I can't speak for all 9s, but as a person with a chronic pain disease, like doing 10 minutes of yoga every morning is is extremely difficult habit to build. It's very, very hard to do. And like the first thing I do is I take my daughter to school. Like that's so I can't, in order to get up and do yoga first, I would have to get up an hour earlier, and that's out of the question. And so figuring out how to incorporate rhythms that become habits, like that's the real challenge for me. It's and I know a lot of nines who are not as physically doing repressed as I am. I know a lot of nines who are very, very busy people, and developing habits the way that I do is not the problem that they are facing. It's about putting their energy into the important things. But it is still about developing habits that like developing routine that become habitual.
Agreed.
Thank you.
It also seems to me, I like the idea of early morning. One of the things that early morning has going for it is your tank is full. Like you have the most energy to actually push past the blocks that commonly can happen. Like when you're exhausted and then you say to yourself, you know what, it's 4 p.m. I probably should do some yoga to get into my body. That's going to be a place where you lack the fuel. So, but early morning can, figuring out ways to do stuff in the morning, at least set yourself up for where you have the maximum amount of energy to execute some of the stuff that is hard to do.
I want to put a special asterisk on that comment because you're right. And also, I'm the type of person that can't do, I really, really struggle with early morning. Like I think there's biological things about night owls versus morning people, and I'm one of the night owls. So I
That's fair.
really struggle with doing things first thing in the morning. My partner, however, loves her morning routine. And also, as often as possible, I tell her to work out as soon as she gets home from work. Like that is something that is good for her body, for her brain, for like getting into her body in that way is really, really valuable for her.
Let me restate that because I think you're right. The part of great habits is programming your physicality to know this is the time in which I go to sleep. This is the time in which I wake and eat. This is the time in which I get creative. This is a big thing for creators. Creators can't work 8 hours a day doing creation. You got a window, and most creators do sprints of an hour to 2 hours. And like Stephen King has an enormous library of creation, but the man works 2 hours a day.
Right.
And like that seems to me, well, I mean, he's doing other crap, the rest. Watching Red Sox games is what he's actually doing, and watching golf documentaries.
And subtweeting the president.
That's right. Walking his dog, which he calls the thing of evil. Yeah. Anyway, like training your body will absolutely respond. It's highly adaptable.
But also, like within that, recognizing what your body is going to do. Like, like it'd be silly for a shot putter to work really hard on their running abilities, right?
Correct.
I don't know why.
Well, that's where meaning.
That was the first sport thing that came to my mind. Yeah, but yeah, that
was awesome.
Shot putter. I don't know anything.
No,
about
you're
shot
putting your
putting
thumb on exactly
if you're a
the point.
curler,
If you know what your thing is, if you know what you're made for and what your story, what the culminating scene of your story that you want, what you want that to look like, it will focus your attention. And so, that's exactly right. Go ahead.
there's something, Jeff, about there's a miss of what TJ brought up earlier of like, what are you giving up? What were you trying to have happen that didn't happen? What's the thing? And Jeff, you said this too. What's the thing that like collided with what you thought was occurring in life. So there's something in the like, you know, the bigness that you're offering here that's awesome, but I really feel like it misses, we got to go, there's a collapse first, like a healthy collapse, like a healthy reckoning with what's actually here.
I mean, and to get even slightly darker, there's going to be a handful.
Need to get a little darker. Yeah.
There's going to be a handful of collapses in your life between now and when you're 90.
And that's something we suck at culturally, right? And even in religious spaces where you would think these things would get some treatment, they don't. So how do we do that part well? I think there's really something important there in terms of, and I was also thinking if we take off recovery, which is a big word, if we just talk about feeling better, I think we have to feel worse first. I just do. Because there's this acceptance and this potential grief that I think is really important. Was that in your golf documentary?
It was. Let me tell you what the answer is. There was actually a great line on this front, and perhaps it's something worth picking up next time. What does it look like? Since you know that there's going to be a handful of triggering events in your life, disruptive
People
events.
don't know this. People don't
No, but it should be named. And so part of the healthy life, because you can look at your life at a meta level and just say, look, I understand that things are going to break and that my best laid plans are actually, you know, fantastic sandcastles that the ocean is going to kick over. And so what does it look like to be a flourishing human being in those spaces? That's a really helpful question, it seems to me. Yeah. But one of the things that was in the documentary was of this sort, was like a lot of golfers are perfectionists because the sport kind of requires that. And so when a bad shot occurs, that can do, it can get in your head and people can get on tilt and just collapse. The golfers collapsing at the end is a really common metaphor. And they had a psychotherapist on who does sports psychology, and he said, I'm listening to the Golf Channel and they're talking about Joe who just hit a terrible shot, and the commentators say, can't win a tournament if you make shots like that. And the therapist goes, this is entirely false. I've watched golf for the last 30 years. Every single champion makes shots like that. The difference is the champion goes to the next shot and pounds it well and gets back in the game and executes. It's not, your failures aren't interesting. Everybody fails. Your failures aren't interesting.
Jeff, we all know you're right. It's how do you actually confront what you're saying? That's what I'm interested in, right? Because of course that's true. But what does that really mean in, because like I can say all day long, like, I know life's going to surprise me. And that doesn't mean I'm going to suddenly like handle a life surprise with like, I knew this was coming. It's just time to
And maybe the part that we're missing is the part that Jackie was thinking about.
Yeah.
In coming to this, like what are the regular practices? What's the daily recovery stuff that we have to do? Because for me, the answer to that question is about building regular habits so that the next time this happens, I have a different type of response built into my automatic.
And I completely think that is the case here, because as I've gone through my current life surprising me, I have handled it in a way that I'm extremely proud of.
Yeah.
And I have worked. I literally feel like I've been training for this moment. So like the long-term stuff is a result of my daily practices. So I absolutely think, we got time. I want to hear the daily stuff.
That strikes me as a perfect portrait of, like, I hate to go back to our conversation about happiness, but that is the
No, it's totally
instantiation of
relevant.
it. Thriving, flourishing being a healthy human being, it looks like that. You've done the work such that knowing that life is going to transpire in unpredictable ways and sometimes will punch you in the mouth in ways that leave you crying wreck on the floor. This is coming.
Every day for 4 months. And then one day you don't cry.
Truly. Like who are you? Yeah. What are you made for? Being able to answer those questions with real clarity and self-understanding seems to me to be a real source, especially if you're tapping into that source speaking over you, your heart's message that's going to like just inflame that. That feels to me like a great posture, a space to make your house.
I would like to say for the record, I freaking love sports for these pieces. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like the things that can occur, you know, is I love sports for the like what humans can do.
It can showcase the best and worst, like some of the like as you watch, some of the people who are the most successful in the world at what they do are train wrecks of human beings as well. So
totally.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I kept thinking about. It's like part of recovery has to be a realignment of what matters.
Mm-hmm.
Like coming back to meaning, because you could be the greatest golfer that the world has ever seen, and
yet
and continually surprise people about how great you are, and yet like famously a bad husband and someone who flips cars because of their drinking and all of this stuff, and bad with money. You could be the greatest success at one thing and a total disaster as a living person. And if your goal is to be the greatest at golf, you can be that and a huge failure at being alive.
Balance,
and
baby.
When you crash, when you hit burnout, you're going to have to realign what's actually important.
Yeah, which is why be the best you can be is a pretty sus thing to me at this point.
Yeah.
It's not, it's like, that's part of a story.
Well, if the target is be the best human being you could be, that could be a worthy.
That could be interesting.
Could be, depending on your definition of what being a human being means. Because there are a lot of people out there who are certain that if you were the most prime physical specimen, that you are the greatest human, and they are trash people.
There are bad answers to the question, what does it mean to be a good human being?
Yes.
Take a philosophy class, kids.
Seriously.
Hey, Jackie.
Okay, Jackie,
tell me about the daily work.
I don't know why this got put on me. I figured this would be a group discussion.
Because you brought
we
the
will
goods,
have
I heard.
thoughts, but you brought,
promised.
Well, no, I brought the concept that burnout recovery, which I'm generalizing to be the concept of, I guess, daily recovery, right? Recovering the everyday is the quote that I brought. Okay, is burnout doesn't happen overnight, which means you can't cure it overnight. It's not as simple as take a bath or read a book. Real recovery requires systemic changes. And then give some examples: more manageable workloads, better support networks, stronger personal boundaries, etc. And so I think that the daily, right, the work of recovery and then something that needs to be maintained daily is systemic change, starting with first our core type, because there's more before y'all get into wings and subtypes. There's more than enough work to do in your core type, damn it. And then systemic, co-occurring systemic changes in how the 3 centers of intelligence are rebalanced. And when I say rebalanced, I don't mean all at the same level and the same use. I mean there's consensus that all 3 centers are in agreement. And so I do think that that's that's different, obviously, for each type based on their repressed center. I also think it's different for an individual and what is burning the candle at both ends in their world. So, I mean, I would love your thoughts on anything that you guys have on the idea of daily recovery being something that is a byproduct of and sustains systemic change to balance.
I think we've talked a lot about some of the stance practices that I think are really helpful. So like thinking about repressed in the head center, part of good daily work is potentially clearing the cobwebs. Like journaling is potentially a really good practice for 1s, 2s, and 6s because you gotta, like, it's about getting rid of the junk so that you can do business with the stuff that's actually there.
Very good.
And I like the analogy of like clearing the cobwebs from the attic or something like that. Journaling may not work very well, but there needs to be something about clearing and elevating the head center
A
to
flushing
get
out.
into and practicing that regularly, because it's not like an actual attic where you could go up there once a year and nothing has changed. It's a little bit more like a dump truck that has some things that you didn't mean to throw away in it. Like you have to clear it out regularly, like a trash can regularly gets filled.
Yeah.
And so coming back to that every single day, I think is a really valuable habit to build.
Yeah.
And if 1s, 2s, and 6s.
If it's not journaling, like I've said this to clients I've worked with who are in this stance, whether it's, going for a walk or going about your day or whatever, put your headphones in, pretend you're on the phone with somebody and do a voice record. The apps on the phone will do a transcription for you, which you can kind of eventually transfer to a journal or something. But it is important to flush it out to your point, right? If journaling is hard, because I have heard that sometimes the thoughts are, let's say, so spinny that it's so hard to just sit down with pen and paper. Like my hand does not move as fast as it needs to come out. And I'm like, okay, then grab your microphone and pretend you're on the phone with your bestie and you're, bitch and moan with some perspective, but get it out. And so that's, really good there. I agree.
There's also an assumption there that has to be made that your thoughts aren't that important unless you've chosen them. And that is a head type thing, I think. I think that's
Unpack that.
thing, actually. Thoughts are just thoughts. Thoughts just appear. We don't need to believe them, trust them, give them the weight that we all tend to do. So you have to kind of start with this assumption that every thought that makes its way to your head is not that important, could actually be interrogated and questioned. There's a whole other set of thoughts that you're not even letting in or looking for until you know to do so. So I would think that would be the other part of the get the thoughts out is, what am I putting in? What do I want to think about a thing? Even knowing you can think things on purpose is another good daily practice.
Right. So making sure all centers are in agreement, right? There's consensus among the, that the repressed center also gets a say in the daily stuff, the logic. Yeah.
The repressed center is, I've heard this. What do y'all think about this? The repressed center actually has kind of the most, once you get it out, it's clear. It's like, there's something pristine about it. Once you sort of get rid of the way that it's busted up and you really access it, there's something real there. So like when a 9 knows the right thing to do, it's like, boom.
Once the code has been cracked, there's sort of
100%. Yeah.
But then also you can't move a muscle, because that's keeping the repressed center not repressed is like a daily action item. And so when you move a muscle and that code shifts like this a little bit, just like a centimeter, a millimeter, whatever, like it's repressed again. It is a really interesting. That's why I look for steps before things that would look like burnout. I often look for areas that are overwhelmed or will become overwhelmed in terms of a person's personality problems, because I'm like, we're going to get to a point where we have to unrepress this thing again.
Right.
Every day. Until it becomes more of a habit.
Right. There is that pulling it out of the depths of hell though, right? Like where it's like there's that daily getting it unrepressed, but then there's that I have been out of this gig for a really long time repressed. And that's the place, that atrophy, that's the place I'm like, we can't get there. And then I think burnout puts you adjacent there. Anyway.
Quick theory. I think in my view, if you're engaging your underlying feeling in a healthy way, it naturally moves you to the high side of your stress move, which
that is good.
Is restorative. It also is the high side potentially of your coping style for some of the numbers as well. And that might be worth naming. But that's why it feels a certain way, is it has that element to it. For me, so New Year's, I wrote down restorative practices that I wanted as my like resolution, and I named them as body, mind, and heart. And I really tried to do easy and enjoyable practices for my heart and for my mind, because I have a very difficult time getting into those spaces. I wrote down 20 goals that all, when looking through them, I'm like, holy crap, 17 of these are about action and doing things,
Wow.
And so for me, saying I'm going to intentionally think about the future and a vacation for my family, that's a heart matter, and it's engaging my mind at some level. I'm trying to pause to watch movies and read books. I'm trying to do a book a week and a movie a week, which I'm failing at. Books are hard to read in a week.
Listening to them counts as reading.
It's true. I picked big suckers though. Go ahead.
Here's the question though.
Yeah.
Head center repressed people, if you're doing stuff while listening to them, is that bad or good?
I just do it, so I'm just going to say it's good.
Take it for me, reading a book is like getting notes on paper. So, or doing business, I kind of have to look at it to really engage my brain. And when I do, then that it elevates my repressed center, and that's what I experience. But I want to put special emphasis on easy and enjoyable. I've mentioned TJ making coffee. That ends up being a physical activity that is easy and enjoyable, and routine that just pings for me. So what's the easy, enjoyable thing that you can do for your heart, for your mind, and for your body? What I think happens, to move back into Dr. Siegel's work again, is that probably opens up some of those pathways in your brain, and you're actually doing work on yourself. It may feel like this is a delight. Of course it is. And unfortunately, it's also changing your brain in that moment in a very positive way. And so in terms of recommendations, that's where I'd start.
There's something there about, well, this is just huge, attention. Mm-hmm. And maybe, TJ, that's kind of what you were getting at as well. So I can make the coffee and I can enjoy that process because I'm focused on it. Or I can make the coffee the way I love to make the coffee, but I was thinking about this thing I'm upset about the whole time. Like that right there. There is just like I think for all types, where is your attention?
Attention and intention, yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And is your attention where it always freaking is, then you need to train it elsewhere. Mm-hmm. So if I have rituals in my life that are enjoyable and easy that I like, I want to pay attention to them. And I also want to do things that signal what I want to have signaled to me. So like I teach people how to signal safety to the body, which would be like not only make your coffee how you want it, but then take a minute to hold it, feel the warmth, take in the horizon, get some sunlight in yourself. Like truly have practices that restore from the outside. We talk about source. I think source can actually be quite wide. It doesn't have to always go to that spiritual place. It's like, what am I gathering from outside of me that is nourishing and restorative and good? Go
Which can
outside.
Literally be sunlight. That
truly.
Is a thing.
You hold your coffee, you get
grass.
the sun in your eyes, you touch a tree, mm-hmm. You have started your day quite well, and you didn't have to, not that journaling's bad, but if you're like, I'm not a journaler, there's lots of practices that are extremely nourishing to our bodies that are simple. And we need simplicity, I think, as the complicated human beings that we think we are. So maybe the simpler, the better.
What'd you say, Jeff? Easy and enjoyable?
Easy and enjoyable.
Alliteration.
In order to execute new habits, unfortunately, you have to engage all three centers. You need to think about the habit. You need to get passionate about the habit. And you need to execute the habit. And it probably needs to get named at a meta level that new habits require balance, unfortunately, because balance is kind of the target. What you think?
You have to get passionate about your habit.
I think I think that passion is actually the most important thing.
Yeah, but what if that's not a button that can be pushed?
You should fashion the button and push it.
Interesting.
Well, that's where like having a culminating story and the meaning that we were talking about, I think really matters. Like the reason that you're doing the push-ups is for the culminating story. The reason that you're reading the book is for the culminating story, you know?
I don't disagree. I think there's an instinct thing here. I think people who can't access passion, I think that's so much work. Like it's true. I agree with you, Jeff. Like I'm like, yes, but I work with a lot of people who this is not accessible.
Maybe.
So,
I mean,
no, I'm not saying it's not accessible at all, but I'm saying how do we help people cultivate passion as opposed to give it out as a directive? Because it is just not. Self-pres social types, passion is like elsewhere.
I tend to think, I suppose.
Does anyone agree with me here? Am I way out? Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
This is where, for me, okay, so I'll tell you how I get there.
Support? Am I arguing with Jeff?
The way that I get there is I have a vision of something in my life that produces passion. And so that's the vision actually is the catalyst for that. And so I don't know how else to get there. So
does anyone in this room have a hard time getting
Jeff,
there?
are you a sexual subtype by any chance?
I sure am.
Okay.
It's
so
one of the first two anyway.
It makes a lot of sense that that's something that just is for you, but it also makes sense that that's something that is is a lot of intentional and sometimes impossible work for a lot of people because it comes with a lot of cost. And for you, it comes with a lot of what you need to do what you need to do. But not.
Look, here's the thing. I'm never going to say that the stuff we're talking about is easy. Never.
But it is easy for some of us. This is my point. I'm as passionate as the day is long, and I love it. But it's an easy button for me. So I would love to hear from TJ on this because he raised his hand when I said.
I think to all of your points, like the bringing the centers into balance, Jeff doesn't need to work on the one that gives him passion.
Exactly.
I do.
Yes.
But I don't necessarily need to work on the one that makes sense of the purpose, right? Mm-hmm. Like I get that. I know why yoga is good for me. Giving a crap about doing yoga every day, that is
totally
super hard. Yeah.
This is the point. TJ, do you want to one day walk Fiona down the wedding aisle? Is that something that produces passion?
That's tough, man. It's not that I don't care. It's that I don't necessarily have passion for it.
Right.
Because it is such a distant future for me that it doesn't induce passion.
And
it
I
doesn't
think induce is a good
like
word there because I think, Jeff, to what you're saying, there's a use there for passion. And so if other people would just passion, then they could use the same tool for the same reason.
Let me spin it negative. Can you imagine Fiona having to walk herself down the aisle because you're not there? And does that produce passion?
No.
Are you?
Yeah, I have a
Jeff,
question.
do you assume
Something
that all
else.
types? Do you think all types of momentum and motivation work for all types of people? Like if every time you come in contact with something that feels like passion, it starts to light a fire under your ass. Do you assume that that is the case? That is what it like. Yeah.
Look, I in this moment, I am not trying to be
no,
right.
I'm not either.
And you can do with your lives whatever
No,
you
it's
wish.
what's accessible.
I'm just trying to pitch. This is how I get there, and some of the things that would.
But
so
it's accessible to
offering,
you.
This
right?
is hard. It's
Well, it is. TJ, have you ever felt passion as you understand it?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
when and what?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, let's give you a minute to think
figuring
of
out
something.
examples. Is
Why am I
much
so
harder,
offended
but
that I'm not on that list? Go ahead.
I think relatively talking about the same thing. I think bringing these things into balance and figuring out ways to access where can I find parts of myself that do induce passion? Where can I find and for me that is about bringing things into balance so that I can get to passion a little easier.
I have one little thing I got to add in here. I have a personal theory that anger and passion are very close together,
Yeah.
that they're very similar energies.
Yeah.
So I really think about nines and passion and that anger repression
Mm-hmm.
as just being so important. Because if I can tolerate, right, and not fear my anger more, then I might be able to tolerate what gets me excited a little
But
bit.
also it's exhausting.
Exactly.
It's
There's a like Jackie
exhausting.
said earlier, there's a cost. It's not just like someone like me who's like more. It's like, okay, I did that and now I have to recover. Ooh, now we're getting somewhere. Right? I have to
Coming full
if I'm
circle,
going
as
to do
it
that
is.
in a day, then I'm going to have to build in what does recovery from that energy output look like for me? So it actually becomes a net positive as opposed to something that takes me out, right? If we're in recovery and we blow out our nervous systems, then we're stuck.
We're still in
again.
recovery. Yeah.
We're still in recovery. So actually titrating our work, I think, is extremely important. And do we know what that looks like? Like I'm going to do a little, my ego is going to be annoyed that I could only lift 5 pounds today, but that's what I could do. And then can I respect myself enough to be like, that mattered. That mattered that I did that. Yeah. Honor that effort and then do it again. Because I think this idea, like certain emotions for certain types are going to blow them out.
If I think about a 9 getting in contact with passion, I just immediately think, well, I would qualify that as disturbance if I was a 9, and that's not the thing that's going to get me
Right.
going. But it might be the thing that gets a sexual 1 going for sure, for certain. And that's valid, and I think hold on to it for dear life.
I think, well, what I was trying to pitch is that all the types are going to struggle here with either the thinking portion, the passion portion, or the execution portion.
The passion portion?
Thinking passion.
Alliteration
Well, the passion
up
of-
the wazoo today. Is that our heart center, the passion portion?
I think it's about your repressed center, probably. It's like actually the courage is what's required for 4s, 5s, and 9s. Courage is the ability to execute the demands of wisdom. So execution and wisdom go together. I think 4s, 5s, and 9s probably all, in some sense, can know what they're supposed to do and lack this. The what is the fuel? You need some fuel to induce that.
Need some fuel and then a plan for the back end. It's like if I'm going to take a risk, then I need to know how I'm going to take care of myself after I do that. So there's a lot of post the effort, because recovery can feel like effort, I think, is something else that we're kind of bringing out here. So how do I treat myself after that so I don't just pop back into my regular stuff? So like for 6, let's say I do something and I do a courageous thing and it actually wasn't that hard. So then if I'm not onto the fact that my brain's going to turn on me and say, why did you make that such a big deal? That wasn't even that hard. If I don't plan for that moment, then I'm missing an opportunity to have my work actually build on itself and create a virtuous cycle. No, go ahead. I'm done.
And this would be the struggle for the 1s, 2s, and 6s. For the thinking repressed, it's really not the courage that's required. It's not the energy. It's not the passion. What we require is wisdom. And I think you're putting your thumb on exactly that, is the thinking through things in a productive way that elicits real insight into yourself and the world around you and your place. That's what's required for the 1, 2, and 6. And for the 3, 7, and 8, you all need to moderate.
And have a plan. How does a 3, 7, 8 moderate? And how do they treat themselves around that? That sounds hard.
Well, they're independent and they need to step into the relational center and allow their hearts to be exposed and allow their feelings to be named.
You have to reveal their passion portion.
I think so. The no big deal side of things, I would love to name, because that is the place I think so many of us actually get stuck, is we see the obstacle and we say this obstacle is insurmountable, and that needs to be shotgunned in the face and a trench dug and buried.
I don't think we see it as insurmountable. I think the system acts and makes
you are
it.
a victim in that kind of mentality.
It's not a mentality. It's a nervous system response. It's not a mentality.
I mean, in terms of saying the system is...
In terms of assuming, what I'm saying, no big deal, is I'm saying confront your core shit. It is an extremely big deal. If it wasn't a big deal, none of us would be stuck in our type stuff. It's the biggest deal. And you're saying that doesn't matter. And I'm saying, I think that matters a lot.
No, I'm saying that this is like a killer of the passion side, is to give yourself excuses on this front that you're a victim, that this will never get better.
This is reminding me of the whole cowardice conversation. And at the end of it all, TJ said, okay, but how do I say that to a 6? And I was like, oh, well, that's a whole different conversation. So like what you're saying, Jeff, I know for a lot of people just plummets them into shame. So I'm always
I might be helpful.
Jeff,
oh dear God. Every conversation we've ever had is like coming up right now.
When we think about personality patterns and we think about how what you would qualify as somebody being a victim, what might be a slew of their patterns leading them to resignation. And at that point, it's not a decision about whether or not they are a victim or they're not. And so I think there are personality patterns even in how sure you are of what you are saying about your prescriptions, for example, right? Those are also personality patterns, and it just doesn't work the same for everybody because of everybody's personality patterns. Not everything is as available, and some things, even though they are helpful to you, for me to reach and grab onto them feel like using my hand to break fire glass. I mean, it's worth it to put out the fire, sure, but like, I am really thinking about the cuts on my hand for certain.
Like the bedrock issue. Can you need to get to the spot where you say yes.
You'll never have enough energy to do something you don't want to do.
Say again?
You just won't. You will never have enough energy to do something you don't actually want to do. And the want is deep. Not a I want that.
I'm very curious what an 8 would say to that statement.
Yeah, well, like they don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to set themselves aside to invite another in to share their feelings. Like they don't want to do that. So they're going to suddenly find themselves unable to do so.
That's the last bit of effort and energy we can conjure up is to something that we don't want to do, 8s included. I'm not saying that they will or won't do it, but I think to Kristen's point, I think that's very astute. Yeah.
Yeah, I always use the example when I'm teaching this, like, I do not like to cook. I hate to cook. Making my kids dinner, I do not like. Are you kidding me? And if I had really thought about that they need to eat every day so many times, I may have made different life choices. But what I want is my kids to be fed. Like, I deeply, deeply, deeply want them to be fed. So I do this thing I don't want to do. I have to find the want out here somewhere. It kind of gets back to the whole meaning thing. What do I want enough that I will confront the things I need to confront?
Yeah. And to Jackie's point, once you get there, to Jackie's point, spot on. All of us have different hands we're dealt. TJ's body doesn't work well. Mine does. TJ doesn't have an autistic kid. I do. We have very different obstacles that consume very different passions, and those hands need to get played in very different ways. I'm not saying that everybody's the same, but I got stuff and you got stuff, and naming your stuff is actually where life happens. This is the most important thing you could probably name about yourself, because this is the meaning of your life. To go to Frankel's stuff, it's like, talk about that, be vulnerable there, elevate that in your conversations, say that you're powerless at some level, tap into your source, and place where you can look at yourself and really be, as Kristen was saying, I'm really proud of how I did X, Y, and Z during. Bringing language to that, I think, really matters. And then executing. Okay, I'm done.
Good word, Jeff.
Good morning, Jeff.
So wired right now.
Recalibration, recovery, reconnection, whatever you want to call it, it seems to be, among consensus, an event at times and also a daily practice at times. Reach for both. That's my thought.
I have a very 6 way to wrap. As I was saying it, I was like, oh, wow, that's hilarious. Life is coming for you, so you can prepare.
For the collapse.
You can prepare on purpose in ways that actually will prepare you for the hard things of life. Or you can do a bunch of other random things and still it's going to come. So
Valid. I like it.
Choose your hard.
Recovery cannot come through the same methods that got you to a place where you need to recover.
Yes, ma'am.
And you cannot get to a place where you spend more time in renewal than recovery without doing the work beforehand. Like, you can't have healthy habits without building healthy habits.
Good.
And that's one of the things that recovery is going to teach us, is how to have healthier habits. Let me rephrase that. That's one of the things that recovery can teach us.
Yeah. Very good.
If we do it with intention and attention.
It's excellent. Next time, I want to pick up secondary centers. This is what gone through my head the entire time we've been talking. I think they don't get enough language, and I think most of us actually don't have a problem with our repressed center. I think we have a problem with our secondary center, and I would love to bring that up.
Ooh, spicy.
Next morning
Spicy.
conversation. Excited to give all of you a hug.
Oh my gosh.
Couple
This
of days.
upcoming
Oh my
week.
God, we are going to group hug so hard. It's not even funny.
Oh, I don't know if I'm up for that. Okay,
It's
I
bad.
gotta go really. Let's end this.
Go.
Guys.
Yeah.
Good morning.
I can't end it until
Just turn your video off.
Yes,
thing
stop.
occurs.
Just say good morning. Just say good morning.
Good morning.